My dad was a priest, and going into the priesthood was sort of like automatic. I just thought that was a thing I should do. And of course, I had other interests on the side. I even thought I'd be maybe a Major League Baseball player, but I was pretty good in high school. And also, I liked music. I was hoping that I would, play the piano better and learn to be a recitalist or concert pianist. But the ministry, priesthood was always in my mind. There's no doubt about that at all. I went to seminary right after high school while waiting to be drafted in the Army during World War II. So instead of waiting for the draft board to call me up, waiting for a month or two, my dad said, "Why don't you go to St. Tikhon's Seminary? They're having an accelerated summer course." I went to St. Tikhon's in July, first part of July. But what happened, World War II ended really in August, when the Nagasaki and Hiroshima were bombed by atomic bombs by the American forces. And Ivan Sapp, the lawyer, wrote into my draft board, said, "Well, he always wanted to go to seminary, why draft him now?" And they said, "Okay, but we'll give him a status of 4D as long as he stays in seminary." So I stayed in seminary where I wanted to be. But after seminary, I was there about 3.5 years, and I wanted to further my education. I was young, I didn't have no college degree, and I went to Lafayette College, and I majored in philosophy and Greek, the Greek language. And I was on the dean's list. I got some credits, by the way, from St. Tikhon's Seminary, and I earned 102 credits in 3 years at Lafayette College in order to graduate, which to me was quite an accomplishment. Well, after I was graduated from Lafayette College, my dad had a friend, Father Vladimir Prosopsky. They were seminary classmates at St. Platon Seminary in Tenafly, New Jersey, and they graduated together. They were friends, they wrote to each other, corresponded all those years. And of course, both of them were active in the art club at that time, the FROC at that time. And there was an opening as a choir director, and I said, "Well, here's a job." And I went there to be a choir director. And it so happened I ended up by marrying the boss's daughter. And then I got ordained to the diaconate in Cleveland and the priesthood in Coaldale, and I was assigned to McAdoo. This was in 1958. I went to McAdoo. We were in McAdoo 4 years, and then Father Nicholas Kirilluk wrote to me from Tachikawa Air Force Base in Japan, but I considered being an Air Force chaplain to fill in a vacant slot. And if we don't take it, the Protestants will take that slot. So I applied for it because I had to go through physical examinations, which was no problem, and I went in. This for a tour of duty for 3 years. And we ended up at Lackland Air Force Base for 3 years, and I was discharged there in 1965. I was at St. Tikhon's Monastery that Memorial Day weekend, and Matuska Mary fed us, was there. That's Andy Fettis' mother. And she asked, he said, "Hey, Father Dan, why don't you go to Harrisburg? They're building a new parish there. You know, you're out of the Air Force and you're young. Why don't you consider that?" And I said, "Yeah, I was reading about that in the Russian Orthodox Journal of the R clubs. It was open. A new parish was being formed." So I told Archbishop Kiprian about it, and I went down there to talk with the parish council. And it was a big challenge, of course. And there was no land, no home, no church. Just about 40 people, maybe 60 people. And I said, "I'll help you build the church." Of course, they couldn't afford much. Well, by resolution, I was dated July 2nd, 1965, signed by Father Joseph Pichte, the Chancellor. It's written in Russian, by the way. And I came here, presented it to the senior warden. That's what Andrew Fettis was when I came here. We used different terms then. When I first came to Harrisburg, we had services at a house chapel rented by the Lutheran church in the area. So they rented it to us for, I guess about a couple of years. That's where Father Michael Roscoe began with the mission with this parish at that time. And of course, there's no place for me to stay. I stayed at Andy Fettis' house. And then for a while, the parish put me in a little apartment. It's not an apartment, it's a private home where I had a room. And I stayed there for a number of months until they bought the Zolgar property, the Cape Cod house we were living in for so many years. In 1st December 1965, there wasn't enough money to pay my salary. And Joe Fesco, the treasurer, said that we have to wait until Christmas. We got a good income. And that was when we had Christmas on January 7th. That's when I got paid for December. But from that moment on, things worked out, and we have what we have now in Harrisburg. We had a contractor, James C. Johnson, was willing to help us build a church here on Locust Lane. We bought the property. We borrowed money from family, especially the Fettis family, and Mrs. Anna Reedy. So we started in November. I remember groundbreaking began in November of 1965, and we moved in March 1966. And the first services here, by the way, happened to be a Vespers on a Saturday evening, and my birthday, March 27, 1966. After the mortgage was paid off and the parish was growing and we were having a little bit overcrowding in the old church, where we were, we decided, let's try to build a new church, a bigger one. And the plan was always to build it on this spot. We thought about that with the building committee, the parish council, in 1965 when I first came here, when we bought this property from the Zlogars. And we raised about almost $200,000. And Bishop Kiprian gave us permission, to continue building the church with the funding, because we had at least 1/3 down for the whole total payment. And we began building here and took out a mortgage, and it took quite quickly we paid it off. We had here the future Metropolitan Herman, who was Archbishop then, with Metropolitan Theodosius, and they consecrated this church. And to me, that was really happening. I always wanted that to happen, never thought it would happen. After the church was done, we had a lot of blank panels on the wall. And those panels, by the way, were put there for icons whenever we're ready. And we decided at that time to get icons in our church. The iconostas, of course, I've already done, and Father Theodore Urevis did them. But when we put icons up, we asked for donations, and we paid them off right away. When we had our first Orthodoxy Sunday Vespers here, I directed the choir, had about 60 in the choir, and we had about 25 priests, and we had so many people. We had people downstairs in the church watching a remote video of the services. We must have had about 350 people in church. It really was. I always remember that. They were going to have the retirement of the Huey helicopter. That was a famous helicopter during the Vietnam War era, and they're going to have a final send-off. This helicopter was being ferried from different cities across the United States, Chicago, Washington, and he wanted it into Harrisburg. So this lawyer asked me, would I be the chaplain? And here I go over there in my Air Force uniform, and I was there with so many VIP political figures, I didn't believe it. Not only Mayor Stephen Reed, but Governor Rendell, Senator Specter, Senator Santorum. Of course, I couldn't have done anything really without my wife Theodora. And later on, with the help of my 3 sons. And then later on, we began having help later on from our grandchildren, Dimitri and Sophia. From that moment on, things worked out, and we have what we have now in Harrisburg. And I was very proud and humbled that so much was accomplished, during my regime, during my realm, during my priesthood, during my assignment here. Was working with the people as usual and trying to motivate them, and it worked, and I feel that I fulfilled my mission here in Harrisburg, especially after all the Apostles' mission started in Mechanicsburg. We spun off. We grew so well, paid off the debt, and we spun off into another little missionary parish. So I was thinking, maybe it's the time to go. So I thought maybe I would retire, but not really retire as such, but not to be the pastor anymore at Christ the Savior Orthodox Church. Let someone else take over now.